Hello and welcome to Boost Your Mid-Year Fundraising with a Bronze Seal on GuideStar. Hi there, my name is Eva Nico and I will be your speaker and host for today's event. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, we will be helping you claim your GuideStar profile and earn a Bronze Seal of Transparency in 5 minutes of less. It's an ambitious promise, so we're going to move pretty fast through this event. Again, my name is Eva Nico. I'm a senior leader at Candid, and I really have the power and the privilege of helping nonprofits connect directly with their GuideStar profiles. We have over 75,000 organizations who have earned a seal of transparency on GuideStar, and it's becoming one of the most broadly accepted symbols of good practice in the sector. So thank you for joining us today, and let's get going. So I want to first say very briefly who we are as Candid, if you don't already know us. In 2019, Foundation Center and GuideStar joined forces to become Candid, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Every year, millions of nonprofits spend trillions of dollars around the world, and Candid finds out where that money comes from, where it goes, and why it matters. Through research, collaboration, and training, Candid connects people who want to change the world with the resources they need to do it. Candid's data tools on nonprofits, foundations, and grants are the most comprehensive in the world. Now, Candid is not just a lofty mission, it's actually real people helping real people. So what I want to do for a moment is welcome some members of the Candid support team who work every day to answer your questions when you come to us at GuideStar. So we're all going to come on camera just for a minute, and I'll stop sharing screen. And you see lots of very friendly faces pop on screen, I hope, to let you know that really we're here for you. Whether you have a question today or tomorrow, you come to GuideStar, there's a little chat box, you can email us, and there are folks every day who try to help you with what you need. So thank you so much, folks, and they'll pop on one more time at the very end because we have a special kind of bonus activity we're doing today, but thank you so much for joining us. We try to be direct, so we communicate clearly and directly, which is why I'm going to jump straight into the agenda and who is eligible for earning a seal of transparency on GuideStar in the first place. I want to make sure that you're in the right place to benefit from this session. So first, who is eligible? If you are a nonprofit that is registered with the IRS and has its own EIN, which is the Employer Identification Number, you can already find your profile on GuideStar. It's likely a fairly bare profile, but you can already find a basic profile on GuideStar, and you are eligible to earn a bronze seal. If you are a nonprofit in the process of registration and you've got your letter of determination from the IRS, you can come to us and have a profile created early. And then finally, if you're an organization that's part of a group exemption, so you have a parent organization, for example, the United Methodist Church, who considers you one of its subordinates or members, and they have an exemption from the IRS, then again, you can also have a profile and earn a seal of transparency on GuideStar. So I don't want to waste your time. So if you don't meet one of these conditions, for example, you're a fiscally sponsored project, or you're an international organization that's not registered with the IRS at this time, this session will not be actionable for you at this moment in time. Now, for the rest of you who are in the right place, let's get into what we'll be talking about. In this session, I'm going to very briefly cover how fundraising and seals connect. We're going to talk about how to claim your GuideStar profile. We are going to show you how you can earn your bronze seal in about 5 minutes, and also what the next step might be beyond that. Finally, I'll let you know how you can get more help if you need it after the event. So, fundraising and seals of transparency. What you might be wondering, how are these two things connected? We do our own research and tracking about how seals and fundraising are connected, but we also look at what others have done, and in particular, research about donors and giving. And give.org is a great source for understanding the connection between trust and donor giving. And in their most recent report, they showed that a nonprofit's accomplishments are the #1 signal donors use to decide if a charity is trustworthy. It's then followed by other signals of credibility, like third-party evaluations or name recognition. Interestingly, in their latest report, give.org also shows that financial ratios, while still important, have been actually declining in importance. So that's a good sign. It's not just about those financial ratios, that overhead ratio. And throughout this survey, give.org also shows that some of the reasons that donors mistrust nonprofits are greed and high compensation, a negative reputation, and the lack of honesty and transparency. So transparency is important to donors, and a seal of transparency helps you in two ways. #1, it is a very tangible demonstration that you're in fact practicing transparency. And #2, in addition to being a very concrete signal, by earning a seal, you're actually providing donors with the critical information that they need about who you are as an organization, your basic information, your programs and your brand, your financial and people information, and then finally your accomplishments at the platinum level. Now, I'm a little bit of a skeptic. I have a PhD in physics, and I consider myself kind of a data nerd. So does transparency actually translate to more contributions? There has been a study done by independent academic researchers, Dr. Harris and Dr. Neely, who showed that, in fact, greater transparency does translate to more in contributions. So they showed that organizations that had a seal of transparency, a year later, they saw a larger amount of contributions than organizations that did not. And this effect was statistically significant, and it was a fairly large effect. For the 6,000 organizations that they looked at, there was a 53% increase. Now, again, I mentioned that value of being direct, so let me be very clear. This does not mean that your nonprofit will get a 50% bump in contributions in a year. I can't promise you that. There are no statistics of the individual case. But what it does show is that more transparent organizations do receive, on average, more in contributions and demonstrate that they are stronger organizations worthy of support. So in summary, what are the benefits of having a seal? Well, first, it is a way to build a trusted identity online, and it is for free, so you don't have to pay any fee to earn a seal of transparency. It does increase your visibility on GuideStar and with our partners, and I will say a little bit more about that. And of course, it gives donors the critical information they need all in one place in a standard format. Now, what many of you may know GuideStar, but you may not know that the data from your profile actually goes to a number of other organizations as well. So it goes to some of the very large kind of tech platforms. It is shown within the account area for some of the largest donor advised funds in the US. There are many other giving platforms that are powered with kind of a backbone of information from GuideStar. And obviously, we are a place where media comes to look for information about nonprofits. So while you're contributing this information to your GuideStar profile, a lot of it goes to other places and these other platforms so that you really have even more benefit from doing this in the first place. Now, you might wonder, what does this look like? your whole profile doesn't necessarily go to all of these partners. Some of them take a slice of this information. So for example, here's Amazon Smile, who will obviously reflect your current name, your location, your mission statement, as well as some of your programs within their giving experience. On Fidelity, on the other hand, a donor can look up an organization and directly see your whole GuideStar profile within their account area. So they might have access to all that you contribute to your profile. So that's a little bit about the why. Let's jump into the how. So first, I want to say a little bit about claiming your GuideStar profile. So you do need to first connect to your profile and be able to access it. Next, we'll talk a little bit about how to update it. And then finally, you want to make sure that you actually publish your information, because that's what makes it official. That's what makes it publicly available. Now, before we jump into the steps, I love to do a very quick poll around this access step. So my colleague Chris will launch a quick poll, a very quick, simple poll for you. Do you already have access to your organization's GuideStar profile? And you can say, I do, I don't, or I don't know. So Chris, would you mind starting off with the poll?
So leading in with about 50% of the room, we have 50% said, I do. Followed by 35%, I don't know, they're not sure, and 15%, I don't.
Got it. Okay, well, that's really helpful. So, so let me cover kind of how to get access if you don't already have one, and if you do, then you're ahead, and we'll just do that. So let me go off camera for a minute and back onto sharing my screen. Go, wonderful. Okay, so claiming your profile is easy. First, you do need to create an account on GuideStar itself. I mean, at a very simple level, we need to know who you are. And what I recommend is that you, as much as possible, register with your work email address. So if you have a work email address, that is the fastest way to make sure that you can claim your profile. If you don't worry, we'll talk about that as well. But if you do have a work email, that's the best one to use. When you come to us at GuideStar, you can navigate to Update Nonprofit Profile. There's a little, at the top of the screen, there's a little navigation bar, and you'll see this page that says Get Started Now. So you'll want to click on that, and that's going to take you through the registration and the claiming process. Now, again, the fastest is when you come to register with your work email. But if you don't have a work email, you can still submit a claim request, and we will need to ask you for some additional documentation. And I'm showing 2 of the documents that we accept as proof that you are associated with the organization whose profile you want to claim. So those 2 documents are the IRS EIN issuance letter. So when the IRS first issues your organization an EIN, or the IRS letter of affirmation. Now, I have to admit, my first thought when I looked at these documents is, wow, they look really similar. So I'll just say that what we're looking for is, this kind of language around applying for an EIN, and we have assigned you an EIN. So that's the language we're looking for at the top of the letter. And then there is another letter, the letter of affirmation, that says, thanks, this is in response to your request for a letter of affirmation, and here it is that we're granting it. And the reason I spend a little time on this is because the other very common document that we get from folks is the letter of determination. And that's the letter that we tend to get when we ask for the other 2 documents. Unfortunately, we can't accept a letter of determination. And the reason is not to make your life harder, but because it is actually a public document. So anyone can go to the IRS website, download your letter of determination, and come to us and say, I'm with such and such organization. So we can't accept that because it is already a public document. So typically your finance person, your executive director, your accountant might have one of the letters that we're talking about, that is kind of proof of the EIN being issued, or the letter of affirmation. The letter of affirmation can obviously also be requested from the IRS directly. So we do our best to validate your connection using your email address and your domain, and that's our first choice. And then secondarily, we ask for some documentation that only someone belonging with a nonprofit will have, in order to make sure that the right profile gets claimed by the right person. So let's talk about getting to that bronze seal. After you've claimed your profile, essentially you come in and you provide some of the required information for bronze. Bronze is really simple. It's very basic information. You will need contact information for your organization. You will need to say where donations should go. So for example, if you have a different address where the donation checks should go, there's a place to indicate that. If it's the same as your main address, you can also say that. Next, the very basics of your mission and some keywords associated with your mission. And then finally, we'll be asking you for very basic information, just the name of your leader. So that's all that you're going to need in order to get a bronze seal. This is information that you should not have to, ask someone else for. You should already be able to, you should already know it. So I wanted to actually take a moment and navigate to the experience and show you kind of how this happens on GuideStar. So here we go. So, okay, GuideStar. Okay, here I, just by typing in Google or in the Google search, here I am, GuideStar. Okay, I am already a manager for some nonprofits, but if I wasn't, I would click this top button, Update Nonprofit Profile. And this is exactly the screen that I showed you that says, get started now, claim your profile. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to sign in, because I've already created an account and I've already, I'm already someone who's known to GuideStar. And then what I'm going to do is to click on Update Nonprofit Profile. And after you've successfully claimed your organization's profile, when you click this button, you'll see a list of the organizations that you manage. So I manage profiles for GuideStar, Brightstar for Good, and Candid. And I want to show you kind of what the bronze experience looks like within the Candid profile. Now, this is a live Candid profile, so I'm not going to mess with it too much, but I wanted to show you when you come in, there's a welcome screen that just gives you a quick overview of information about your organization. So here we see that Candid is at the Platinum Seal level. And I want to point out to you that if you have others helping you with this, you can actually assign additional profile managers yourself. So let's say you've gone through the claiming process, you've sent us the documents, now you have the power to add additional managers just by clicking update and providing an email address. So that's something I encourage you to do after you go through the claim step. Next, I want to show you very quickly that, it's pretty easy to see kind of what's needed for what seal of transparency. And of course, we'll want to focus on the bronze seal. So on the update page, you'll see an overview of the sections that are required for each seal level. And I'm going to click into the bronze sections just to show you exactly what this looks like. So it's essentially a set of questions that we ask. What's your organization's name? Clearly, that's already pre-populated because this profile already exists. What's your mailing address? That's Candid's mailing address in New York. What is your organization's main phone number? And then there's additional numbers you can put in, but you don't have to. Does your organization have a website? We do, so we've noted that here. And then who is your primary contact? So that's the contact information. Do you have a fundraising contact? If you don't have one, you can unclick that and you just simply that disappears. If you do have one, then you can add that. And then where should people send donations to your organization, your donation info? So again, this is just to double check that if, where do you want these potential donations to go? So for example, our donor advised fund partners in some of these platforms look at this address when they're thinking about processing a donation. And you can simply say it's the same as my main address, or if you have a different one, you can indicate that as well. So let's talk about the last couple of components. The mission is very simple. It's just, what is your organization's mission? You simply enter that as a text field. And then I want to say a little bit more about what these little tags are. So we ask what subject areas best describe your organization's work, and that can be up to 5. And then what target populations best describe who you serve. These are important codes that you add to your profile, because these codes help your organization be surfaced in search results. Essentially, they help your organization be found. So when you interact with this, you can just simply click in this field and you'll see kind of a full menu of different kinds of codes. But what I suggest to you, that if you're an education institution, then you start typing education, or not mistyping it, of course. And then the relevant codes will start popping up. So you can just select from there. For example, if you're doing arts education, you can click and select on that one. So I do recommend that you choose, 5 of these codes, again, to, as well as possible, kind of help your organization be found. And the same for target populations. You can simply look for, there are different groupings of populations you can indicate by age, by ethnic and racial groups, family relationships, health, religious groups. There's kind of a number of items here. If you really serve everyone, or if you consider yourself serving everyone, then I would suggest you choose adults and children, and that might reflect your organization the best at that moment. And then if there are other keywords you want to enter, that's up to you, and you can do that as well. And then finally, Bronze concludes with who leads your organization. And really the minimum fields when you first come in will be first name, last name. That's it. But if you would like, you can add more information in terms of, the title that your leader goes by, or a short bio, or whatever you'd like. But in terms of requirements, it's just the first name and the last name. And after you do that, we go to the all-important publish step. So you click publish. And what this will do is it will navigate you to the confirm and publish page, where you'll need to accept the terms and conditions, as well as say that you're providing accurate information. You can also set some donation permissions, so allowing your organization to receive donations through third parties like Amazon Smile, like Network for Good, like others. And then you have the option, if you have earned a bronze seal, to add a donate button on the GuideStar profile itself. And so here's where you indicate those things. And then when you're done, this button will become activated and you can publish now. So I just wanted to make sure that I showed this to you, because I think it will really help you be very comfortable when you come in and be able to get through this process very quickly. So let me finish up here. Next, after bronze, obviously you can go for silver. So the seals are kind of like with the Olympics. You have to get, past bronze in order to get silver. For silver, what you need is 2 key elements: your information about your programs, and then a little bit of information about your organization, like your logo and your tagline, that really helps you show up well, particularly in mobile giving applications. And then after that, there's obviously gold and platinum. And for gold, I'll just say that it takes a little bit of preparation, because you'll want to make sure you have your recent year financials. And then you also want to make sure you have your board list. And then finally, there's a question in gold about the demographic, how your leader identifies in terms of their demographics, their race and ethnicity, their gender identity, their sexual orientation, and their disability status. We do strongly suggest that you do this with respect, and so we provide a guide that you can get in the gold section that essentially says how to ask these questions. And then for any that the leader does not feel comfortable sharing, there's an option to decline to state. So after that, you're ready to get the outreach toolkit, have your seal, which you can put on your website or put in your communication materials. So once you achieve your bronze level, you will see in the benefits tab, a toolkit for those communication materials so that you can celebrate your success. So with only about 1 minute to go, I just want to one more time indicate that we are here to help. I really appreciate my colleagues for helping this event run so smoothly. Thank you, Chris, Dorothy, and Kristen. And I want to say how you can contact those wonderful team members that you saw on screen and you'll see again in a moment, just after this webinar. So you can simply email us at support@candid.org, and we suggest that you put Candid Webinar in the subject so that they will be especially attentive to your message after this event. And I will again stop sharing for a moment and just let folks come in on screen one more time. And I just want to say from the heart, like a big thank you to this team who really works tirelessly every day to help folks with whatever questions they have. Even if they have nothing to do with the profile, they'll find you with the right person to talk to. So I just want to say thank you to them. Please do reach out to them. They're here for you as well. I'll let them wave and say goodbye, and they'll be waiting for any questions you might have. And then I'll finish us out with just a quick, please do reach out to us anytime. There's also a help center that you can access. And then please join us for future training events. So we have a self-paced course that is about digital storytelling, and you can do that on your own time, and it really helps you think about what it is that you share with your digital campaigns and on your profile. And again, I want to say thank you for joining us today. I hope that this was helpful to you. Please reach out to support@candid.org if you have additional questions, and thank you for joining.